Imagine sitting in your own living room, drinking coffee you bought with your own hard-earned money, while your sister looks you dead in the eye and demands you pay $30,000 for her kid's private school. Now imagine her following that up with, "Come on, you're just the aunt. It's not like you have a real family to spend it on." Yeah, that actually came out of her mouth. But what my sister didn't realize when she tried to treat me like her personal ATM was that I am incredibly petty when it comes to my boundaries. Because I didn't scream, I didn't argue, I just went to my financial advisor, legally moved every single penny I had, and showed her a checking account balance of exactly $0. If you are the responsible, child-free sibling in your family, and you are so incredibly tired of people acting like your bank account is community property just because you didn't have kids, you are going to want to hear this. Let's back up and talk about a little phenomenon I like to call the child-free sibling tax. I am 34 years old. I am single by choice, and I am the director of marketing for a tech firm. I work 50 to 60-hour weeks. I don't buy fancy cars. I don't wear designer clothes. But I have been aggressively saving and investing my money since I was 22. My older sister, Jessica, is a completely different story. Jessica is married to a guy who thinks budget is a dirty word, and together they have 3 kids under the age of 10. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely adore my nieces and nephews. I am the fun aunt, and I buy the loud Christmas toys, I pay for summer camps, and I always slip them a $20 bill when their mom isn't looking. But over the years, Jessica started viewing my generosity not as a gift, but as a guaranteed income stream. It started small. She would ask me to cover a grocery run here, or pay for a pediatric dentist bill there. But then, she started upgrading her lifestyle. She leased a luxury SUV. She started taking girls' trips to Mexico. And suddenly, whenever it was time to pay for the kids' actual needs, her wallet was mysteriously empty, and her hand was out, pointing right at me. Whenever I tried to say no, she would use the ultimate guilt trip. She'd sigh, look at me with these sad eyes, and say, "It must be so nice to only have to worry about yourself." And some of us are actually raising the next generation. I used to just swallow my pride and write the check, because I love those kids. But then, Jessica decided to push her luck straight off a cliff. It was a Sunday afternoon. Jessica invited me over for a special family lunch. She actually cooked, which should have been my first red flag. Usually, if I go over there, I'm the one ordering the pizza. We were sitting around her dining room table, and she had this massive, smug smile on her face. She cleared her throat and announced that she and her husband were pulling the kids out of public school. They were enrolling them in Oak Ridge Academy. For context, Oak Ridge is the most elite, snobby, private school in our state. It's the kind of place where the kids wear blazers with little crests on them, and the parents drive $100,000 cars in the pickup line. The tuition is roughly $10,000 a year per child. I smiled, genuinely surprised. "Wow, Jess, that's amazing. I didn't realize Brad got a promotion." Jessica laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was this dismissive, arrogant little chuckle. She reached into a folder, pulled out a glossy enrollment brochure, and slid it across the table to me. Tucked inside the brochure was a payment schedule. "Brad didn't get a promotion," she said casually, sipping her iced tea. "The first tuition installment is due on the 15th. We put you down as the financial guarantor." My brain actually stopped working for a second. I just stared at the piece of paper. "You did what?" "We put your name down for the billing," she said, like she was asking me to pass the salt. "The public schools here are just beneath us now, and honestly, it's time for you to step up. You make great money, and you just sit on it. You're just the aunt. You don't have a husband, you don't have kids. What else are you going to do with your wealth? Buy another cat?" She called me just the aunt. She reduced my entire existence, my career, my hard work, to a backup generator for her poor financial choices. Here is a little tangent. Because I know someone watching this has felt this exact same rage. Have you ever noticed that people who are terrible with money always think they know exactly how you should spend yours? They act like your savings account is an insult to their struggles, completely ignoring the fact that you sacrificed to build it. I looked at Jessica. I looked at Brad, who wouldn't even make eye contact with me. And in that moment, the switch in my brain flipped from loving sister to absolute villain. I didn't throw my water in her face. I didn't scream. I just folded the brochure, put it in my purse, and smiled. "You know what, Jess?" I said, keeping my voice perfectly calm. "Let me take this home and look over my finances. I'll come by your house on Thursday to sort out the paperwork." She beamed. She literally clapped her hands together. "I knew you'd understand. You're the best aunt ever." I left her house, got into my car, and immediately called my financial planner. I told him I needed an emergency meeting on Monday morning when I sat down in his office. And I had one simple request. I said, "I want to be broke. Legally, completely, on paper broke, by Thursday." My planner laughed. But when he saw the look on my face, he opened his laptop. Over the next 48 hours, we executed the great wealth migration. I took my entire savings account, my liquid investments, and the massive emergency fund that Jessica somehow knew about, and I locked it all away. I put a large chunk into an irrevocable trust that I couldn't touch for 5 years without paying massive penalties. I moved the rest into high-yield, long-term government bonds. Then, I went to a completely different bank, a bank I had never used before. I opened a new checking account and set my work direct deposit to go there. Finally, I looked at my original checking account, at the one Jessica was used to seeing me pull my debit card from. I left exactly enough money in there to pay my mortgage and my electric bill for the month. Once those auto drafts cleared on Wednesday night, the balance was a beautiful, shining zero. I didn't have a single penny of accessible cash to my name at that bank. Thursday evening rolled around. I drove to Jessica's house. I didn't even knock. I just walked right in. She was sitting at the kitchen island with the school enrollment contracts laid out, holding a fancy pen. "Hey," she chirped. "I filled out everything except the routing numbers. Are we doing a wire transfer or a cashier's check?" I sat down on the bar stool across from her. I let out a heavy, dramatic sigh. "Jess, I am so incredibly sorry," I said, putting on my best fake sad face. "And I really wanted to help with Oak Ridge, but I had a massive financial emergency this week. I'm tapped out." She froze. The pen dropped out of her hand. "What do you mean you're tapped out? You make 6 figures." "I know, but things happen," I said innocently. "I just don't have the money." Her face turned bright red. "You are lying. You are just being greedy. I know you have at least $60,000 sitting in your savings. You told Mom about it at Christmas." I slowly reached into my pocket. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, logged in using Face ID, and slid the phone across the granite countertop. The screen was glaringly bright. Checking account, $0. Savings. Account, $0. She stared at the screen. Her eyes darted back and forth, like she was trying to read a foreign language. "Oh, where is it?" she whispered, her voice actually shaking. "Where did your money go?" "It's gone," I said, leaning in closer. "It's locked in irrevocable trusts and long-term bonds. I literally cannot access it for 5 years. Even if I wanted to pay for the kids' tuition, the bank wouldn't let me. I am completely, liquidly broke." Guys, the meltdown that followed was of epic proportions. She started screaming. She yelled that she had already told the country club moms that her kids were going to Oak Ridge. She yelled that they had already bought the expensive uniforms. She demanded that I take out a personal loan to cover it. I stood up, grabbed my phone off the counter, and slipped it back into my pocket. I can't take out a loan, Jess. I'm just the aunt, remember? I don't have a real family to invest in. But my job is to buy them ice cream and take them to the zoo. Your job is to figure out how to pay for the private school you enrolled them in without checking your own bank account first. I turned around and walked out the front door while she was still screaming in the kitchen. The aftermath was absolute poetry. Jessica and Brad had to do the walk of shame to the admissions office at Oak Ridge and withdraw their kids. Because they had already bought the non-refundable uniforms, they were out about $2,000 of their own money. My mother called me a few days later, furious. She told me I was cruel for tricking my sister. I told my mother that if she was so heartbroken about the kids not going to private school, she was more than welcome to cash out her own retirement fund to pay for it. Shockingly, my mom changed the subject real quick. It has been a year since the Great Wealth Migration. Jessica didn't speak to me for 6 months, which were honestly the most peaceful 6 months of my adult life. She finally reached out around the holidays, mostly because her kids were asking where their fun aunt was. We have a relationship now, but it is strictly on my terms. I still love my nieces and nephews. I still buy them amazing birthday presents. But Jessica knows better than to ever ask me for a dime. She knows that if she even hints at me paying for one of her bills, I will pull up that $0 bank screenshot and walk right out the door. Look, society conditions us to believe that if you don't follow the traditional path of marriage and kids, your resources are somehow public property for the people who did. They weaponize the word family to make you feel guilty for being successful. But your money is your security. It is your peace of mind. You do not owe anyone your life savings just because they decided to have a family they couldn't afford. If someone ever tries to reduce your entire worth to just the aunt or just the uncle, don't get mad. Just lock up your vault, show them your empty pockets, and let them figure out their own bills. Have you ever had an entitled family member try to claim your hard-earned money just because they thought you didn't need it? How did you shut them down? Tell me your best stories in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story gave you the closure you needed today, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more satisfying revenge stories. And remember, boundaries are free, but private school tuition definitely isn't. Catch you in the next one.